There are discoveries so powerful that, if proven true, they would rewrite history for millions of people simultaneously. In 1982, a man walked beneath the streets of Jerusalem and claimed he had just made exactly that kind of discovery. Not a fragment, not an artifact, not a relic, but the single most sacred object in biblical tradition. He said he found the Ark of the Covenant. He said he touched it. He said he collected biological evidence from its surface. And then, when the world asked for proof, nothing came. No photographs, no verified samples, no independent confirmation, just his account, and a silence that has lasted over 40 years. The evidence did not disappear into a fire or a flood. It simply slipped beyond the reach of verification. And that vanishing of proof rather than person is what makes this case one of the most unusual unsolved mysteries in modern archaeology. Ronald Eldon Wyatt was born in 1933 in Michigan. By profession, he was a nurse anesthetist, a man trained in precision, in careful observation, in the management of controlled conditions. By belief, he was a devout Christian who became increasingly convinced through the 1970s that physical evidence for biblical events existed and had not yet been properly located. He was not affiliated with any university. He held no archaeological credentials. He operated entirely outside the framework of institutional archaeology, which immediately drew criticism from the academic community, but also freed him from the constraints of peer review and institutional approval. Throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, Wyatt made a series of claims that generated significant attention in religious communities. That he had located Noah's Ark near Mount Ararat in Turkey, that he had identified the site of the Red Sea crossing, and that he had found chariot wheels on the seabed of the Gulf of Aqaba. None of these claims were confirmed by independent researchers. None produced verifiable physical evidence, but they established Wyatt as a figure who moved through the world believing that history's most significant objects were waiting to be found, and that he was the one finding them. In 1982, Wyatt was excavating near a site in Jerusalem traditionally associated with the crucifixion of Jesus, an area known as the Garden Tomb. According to his account, while working in a narrow passage beneath the surface, he discovered an entrance to a sealed chamber. The chamber, he said, had not been disturbed. It was silent and ancient, and inside it, partially covered by what he described as a stone table, was a gold-covered chest, approximately the dimensions described in the book of Exodus for the Ark of the Covenant. He described the moment with precise emotional detail. He said he reached in and touched it. He said the experience was overwhelming. He said he understood immediately what he was looking at, and he also understood in that moment that what he had found could not yet be shown to the world. He did not explain why. He simply said the time was not right. The most extraordinary element of Wyatt's account was not the ark itself. It was what he claimed was on it. He described a vertical crack in the rock above the chamber, a fracture that extended upward through the stone toward the surface. He proposed that this fracture aligned precisely with the location of the crucifixion site above, and that biological material from that event had traveled downward through the crack over time and come to rest on the surface of the ark. Wyatt stated that he carefully collected dried residue from the ark's surface and arranged for laboratory analysis. The results, he claimed, were unlike anything documented in modern biology. He reported that the sample contained only 24 chromosomes, half the number present in standard human DNA, 23 from a female source and one of unknown origin. If accurate, this would represent a biological anomaly with no scientific precedent. It would be, by any measure, the most significant forensic finding in human history. But that is precisely where the account becomes a problem, because the documentation required to evaluate such a claim simply does not exist. No laboratory was named, no report was published, no independent scientist examined the sample, no chain of custody was ever presented. 4 requirements, 0 fulfilled. This means the moment of collection must be recorded, the sample must be sealed and labeled at that moment. Its storage conditions must be documented. Its transfer to a laboratory must be witnessed and recorded. The laboratory must be identified and its methodology disclosed, and the results must be subjected to peer review by independent scientists. None of these conditions were met in Wyatt's account. No laboratory was named, no report was published, no independent scientist examined the sample, no chain of custody documentation was ever presented. The Israel Antiquities Authority, the official body responsible for overseeing all archaeological work within Israel, has no record of any authorized excavation matching Wyatt's description at the location he identified. They have not confirmed the existence of the chamber. They have not acknowledged the discovery. In the world of verifiable archaeology, the site does not officially exist. When pressed on why the Ark could not be publicly revealed, Wyatt offered explanations that shifted over time. He said the discovery was being kept secret at the request of heavenly messengers he had encountered in the chamber. He said the evidence would be revealed when the world was ready. He said the location was known to him but could not be disclosed. Each explanation moved the verification point further into the future, and the future never arrived. His supporters maintained that he had no motive to fabricate such a claim, that he was a sincere believer who genuinely experienced what he described. His critics argued that sincerity is not evidence, and that the absence of documentation is not a mystery, but a methodological failure. Both positions remain unresolved. The chamber has not been independently found. The samples have not been independently tested. The Ark has not been independently seen. Here is the question that has never been answered satisfactorily. If Ron Wyatt fabricated this claim, what was he protecting? He gained nothing financially. He spent his own money on every expedition for 20 years. He never sold the story. He never monetized the mystery. So what was it? The archaeological establishment's response to Wyatt's claims was consistent and unambiguous. The Biblical Archaeology Society reviewed his work and found no credible evidence supporting any of his major discoveries. The Israel Antiquities Authority denied his claims regarding the Jerusalem site. No peer-reviewed journal has published findings supporting his accounts. Archaeologists who examined the locations he identified found no physical evidence consistent with his descriptions. Ron Wyatt died on August 4, 1999, in Nashville, Tennessee. He was 65 years old. He died having never produced independent verification of any of his major claims. The exact location of the chamber he described died with him. The samples he collected, if they existed, were never made available for examination. The Ark of the Covenant, if it was ever in that chamber, remains wherever it has always been, unfound. From a strictly forensic perspective, the conclusion is straightforward. No verifiable evidence supports the discovery. No documented chain of custody exists for the samples. No peer-reviewed analysis confirms the reported findings. No accessible artifact has ever been examined. The claim fails every standard of scientific verification, and yet the story persists. Not because the evidence is strong, but because it vanished before anyone could prove it was weak. Ron Wyatt did not produce a forgery that could be exposed. He produced a claim that could never be fully examined. And in that gap between assertion and verification, in that space where proof should exist and does not, the mystery lives. The Ark of the Covenant has been missing from recorded history for over 2,000 years. Ron Wyatt said he found it in 1982. He died 17 years later without showing it to anyone. And the question that cannot be answered, the question that sits at the center of this case, is not whether the Ark exists. It is why, if Ron Wyatt found it, the only proof of that discovery vanished just as completely as the Ark itself.